What's up everyone, it's Karthik with MoneyVest. Welcome on board for our Market Open live stream here on this fine Thursday morning as we are seeing a pre-market, a little bit of that momentum coming back in. We are higher on a pre-market basis, so S&P 500 is flying right now up over 44 basis points. We got QQQ, so NASDAQ also up over 66 basis points. You got NVIDIA up over 1.5%, and of course SoFi is pushing up almost 1% as well. Tesla's up over 25 basis points with gold sitting at a brand new all-time high, fresh all-time highs coming in for gold, sitting at over $4,237 per ounce. Insane, absolutely insane as to where gold is trading right now. It's just unbelievable. We got silver sitting at just shy of $53 per ounce here. So just incredible performance coming in from these commodities. And if I show you like the gold's performance relative to the S&P 500, it has actually been a better investment, of course, over the last several months here. But one could even argue since 2021, gold has actually been a better investment against the S&P 500 because of the 70% outperformance is what we have witnessed for gold against the S&P 500. And this was, again, very similar to what we kind of experienced right after the dot-com bubble. And obviously during the great financial crisis, gold is what really stood the test of time and was one of the best performing assets. It was up 846% over and above the S&P 500. And right now we're kind of seeing something very similar, another one of those sort of bull runs getting started here on commodities. So yeah, something to keep in mind here as gold continues to surprise us to the upside, sitting at well over $42.51 per ounce for the first time ever in the history of the chart. So yeah, absolutely incredible from GLD. I got your opinion on Enphase and your old stock InMode, which you stopped talking about. Let's take a quick look on InMode here, as it has been, of course, one of the underperformers, consolidating sideways, and it's been trading in this downtrending channel. It is still a company with a plenty of cash, right, sitting on the sidelines. It's still a profitable business, trading at really, really low multiples here. But one of the videos I did mention about InMode, and that is that if it doesn't actually have a recurring subscription model, revenues are going to stabilize because it can only depend on its hardware sales for so long, right? So it's a very profitable business, cash-rich company with little to no debt. Last time I checked, it had no debt. Come over to statements here. So we got total debt of $6 million. That's it. $6 million worth of debt here with cash sitting at around $510 million. So yeah, technically it has no debt with negative net debt of $504 million. So yes, it's got all the financial factors of a good managed company. In other words, no debt, plenty of cash, profitable with very good high margins. The only issue here is the growth potential for the business and how much can it really grow. So it's got a pretty low TAM, which is what I've discussed in my previous updates about InMode as well. Yes, the valuation is low and a lot of things are positive for InMode, but there's also things like growth, which is lacking. And that's one of the reasons why the stock is, of course, declining here, lower highs and lower lows. And it's more like stabilizing a little bit at that support of $13 to $14 per share. So this right here is going to be that support with a very strong resistance up to $19, almost $20 for InMode. Enphase also, we've talked about this many times in the past. I've done a couple videos on Enphase already. Of course, it's been struggling quite a bit, selling down aggressively because of the significant decline in revenues and cash flows and profits, and that you can clearly see on a quarterly basis as well. It's gotten a lot better since 2024, 2025, but of course we kind of peaked out on revenues in 2022 and 2023, and of course since then we've seen a significant decline in margins and profitability and cash flow, and as a result it has been struggling quite a bit. It's now stable at a support around 30, 31 bucks, and that is going to be that level to keep in mind for Enphase for now. But yeah, those are the two stocks with the updated analysis on both of them. So that's where we are. All right. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Gold is telling us something about the dollar as well. And what's also interesting, as I said, is if you take a look at S&P 500's performance against gold, you'll notice that we are essentially underperforming. So a lot of that value creation is all perception. Real value has been in hard assets and stocks that are actually outperforming gold, right? So if you take a look at NVIDIA divided by gold, for example, if you do that calculation, you'll notice that this has obviously been one of the best investments since 2013, 2012. NVIDIA obviously is up over 38,000% against gold here, but you cannot make the same case for S&P 500 because since 2021, gold has actually outperformed the S&P 500. So just investing in the market has actually been a worse proposition compared to some real hard assets, including gold and silver. But then, of course, you got to find something that's even going to be beating those asset classes, and that's where individual stocks start to come in into the picture. So, yeah, that's that. And buy AMD today. AMD was up a lot yesterday, so pushed up over 9%, if I remember correctly. 9.4 coming up to that resistance, and we talked about it briefly in our market updates. Obviously, we do have a pretty big gap for AMD, somewhere between 170 to as much as $202, right? So that's the gap that is obviously left out after the earnings, or no, not after the earnings, after the deal that it inked with OpenAI. And of course, since then, it's just been pushing higher. It's coming up to that resistance. So is it a buy at 237, 238 after it's already rallied so much? Probably not. Could be a tradable stock if you do get that breakout above 239 on some decent volume. But yeah, just be very careful buying something that's already rallied so much already. Meta breaking out. Let's take a look at Meta here very quickly. So Meta here, not necessarily breaking out. I wouldn't call this breaking out here. It's been selling off on the contrary, and of course consolidating sideways in that range. So if you take a look, I mean, this right here has been, the pattern within which Meta's been trading a little bit, and a very strong area of demand and support sits at around 678 to 691. So that $20 range is where the support is for Meta inside this green rectangle, right? So then inside this area of demand with a resistance that's staying put all the way up to 745 for Meta platforms. So that's where we are. Good morning. Do you think markets will be up or down today? Very high volatility. So if you take a look at volatility, we are still pretty elevated, right? So we are sitting at just under 20. And for the VIX, this is an elevated level. As I mentioned in my yesterday's update and my video and also the Discord update here, talking about volatility levels. And the fact of the matter is that VIX stays above 20 38% of the times, right? So that's not that much, right? 62% of the times, most of the times, volatility has spent below 20. And so if we are consistently closing in above 20 here, which is an elevated level, which is a 38% times that we've seen with 75th percentile for the volatility, that is a little bit of that elevation, right? So there is a lot of uncertainty in this market, which is one of the reasons volatility is elevated in the first place. That's why I am a bit more careful here because of this kangaroo market, right? Because at the end of the day, like this is what we're seeing is market trade sideways. It's not really going up or down. It's rather trading sideways, right? So if you come back to the S&P, this is really the range within which it's been trading, right? This is the perfect range if I were to highlight. And you'll notice that we're back at the same level as we were towards the end of September. And we've just been kind of hovering around for the last 1 month, bouncing in between that range, right? So we're just kind of knocking back and forth here for the S&P 500. So a kangaroo market along with an elevated VIX does keep us on our toes because markets are kind of figuring out that direction right now. And a lot of that is going to be once we get some more conclusive reports on the trade war with China, once we get some more updates on the government shutdown, once we get more updates on the actual economic data releases that have been suspended and delayed, once those things start to come out, then we will have a much better idea on direction. Because at the end of the day, like the market does not like uncertainty. Uncertainty is what the market absolutely dislikes, because when there is uncertainty, capital will flood out of the equity markets. And where will it go? It'll go to safety. And so every time we see any kind of incredible sell-off, one thing that actually does rally is bonds, right? TLT. So if you come back to Friday, October 10th, TLT was up 1.6%, right? I would even argue XLU, which is like utilities, tend to do really well. So if you come back to Friday, it was slightly down about 41 basis points, but then let's take a look at XLP here, which is staples. Staples on Friday the 10th was also higher. It was up 8 basis points. And of course, starting to push right back up here. And on Tuesday, it was up over 1.6%. So that's where sort of, capital floods to. And gold and silver are also some pretty good proxies of a risk-off environment of real assets where capital goes to if there is any kind of uncertainty. And as a result, the general market, the overall equity markets are in a state of indecision right now, essentially in this kangaroo market is what we're seeing. Okay, let's take a look here. Solar to buy now for 2030. OpenDoor for Yogesh. We'll take a look at that as well. AMD biggest position before the bang. Again, guys, please make sure that you don't spam the chat because I'm going to get to everyone's question. One question is more than enough. I will definitely read it off and I will go to it. In case I don't, then maybe you can put that back in. But back to back, please try to avoid posting the same question because I know you're just going to be copying and pasting it as many times. But we want to give everyone the opportunity to type in and, of course, keep the chat flowing and not just make it super spammy. So just once is enough. I will read it off and I will go to your question and we'll discuss it. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, we have too much Enphase over here. Solar buy now for 2030. Yogesh, let's take a look at OpenDoor. Open, of course, has been on this tremendous run-up. It's now starting to consolidate sideways a little bit. Resistance 1039, 1040 with a very strong support that's going to be staying put all the way up here at $6.91, closer to $7 for OpenDoor. Another support sits at $5.60 for the stock here, but once again, it's been mostly consolidating sideways in that range with $10.60 and a $6.90 support and a $10.60 resistance for OpenDoor right now. Neuropulse AI, Infinite World Engine. I believe that might just be a promotion or something. I'm just going to have to hide. There's a lot of bots, man. I kid you not. There's so many bots on YouTube talking about some kind of altcoin or crypto or whatever. They type all these crazy words I can't even pronounce, and there's like a bunch of them. I have to go to every single one of my videos and delete those comments because there's so many bots on YouTube just talking about weird crypto coins. And it's just so annoying. Like, I really wish Google would fix that, but it's a manual work. I have to go in every video and try to remove as many comments as possible. But every one comment that I remove, 10 new pop up. So it's pretty difficult. But yeah, AMD biggest position before the bang. Does AMD seem to be a gap and go here? Well, we already covered AMD briefly. So again, it's got a gap left here on the downside, but we got a big resistance at 239, 240. So if you do get a breakout on high volume, yes, there is potential up to 280 to 300. A few of our members and I, we were like talking about this in our Discord a few weeks ago, and our price target essentially landed us around the 280. To as much as $300 target for AMD. So that is very much a possibility in case we get that breakout for advanced micro devices, because on the weekly and the monthly time frame, you can kind of clearly see this is the entire uptrend within which AMD has been trading, right? So higher highs and higher lows, and that's really where we are with this stock here. So that is where that higher high would land us around 280 to 300 bucks. Okay, let's see. Adobe, let's take a quick look here. So Adobe here continues to sell off inside this downtrending channel, lower highs and lower lows. So if you do get a breakdown further, which it seems like it's going to give us another breakdown, looks very weak. Another support is going to stay at a 274, 275 for Adobe. So on a monthly time frame, you'll notice that this is the overall chart within which it's been trading. So we got a resistance all the way up to 679, 680. With, of course, a support level that's going to stay put inside this green rectangle. Two of them. One of them looks like it's starting to break down. The next support is going to be at 277. Northwestern Canopy Development. Yesterday said shop going 180. Now seems like the truth. Shop 177 very soon. What does that even mean? Yesterday, so Adobe we covered. Yesterday said shop going to 180. Now seems like the truth. Shopify? I haven't even covered Shopify. can you be a little bit more clear? Northwestern Canopy Development, so I can get to your question. Okay, Joe, is this the end of Bitcoin bull run? There seems to be a lot of people betting against it. I'm not much for crypto, but obviously we know that crypto bull runs happen in cycles, in huge cycles, right? These are multi-year cycles that happen for crypto. Is it the end, or is it the beginning, or is there more upside? Obviously, nobody will know, right? We just can't ever predict. But what I can do is, of course, give you some very good technical analysis, which is where this support around the $109,000, $110,000 really is. So that is a pretty strong support. Previously, that was a very strong resistance. And Bitcoin tends to follow some pretty good technicals very, very well, right? Because it is, at the end of the day, a factor of supply and demand, right? It has little to no fundamental bearing on its own asset. It's essentially a factor of supply and demand. If there's more people buying it, of course, and there's more demand, prices will go up. And it essentially becomes a very good proxy for trading because the technicals are more clean compared to a stock, right? Very, very unlikely for us to see gap ups and gap downs for Bitcoin because it does trade 24 hours. And so support level 109, 110,000. In case we get a breakdown below this, then low 100s is also a possibility. But as I mentioned before, I am bullish and optimistic long term on Bitcoin because of the factors that it has, limited supply, and of course the technology here, and the fact that there's a lot of adoption happening across the world among central banks, institutions, governments are adopting Bitcoin as a more mainstream asset class and digital currency. And as a result, I continue to be a little bit more optimistic about its future. So I will dollar cost average more into BITX. It's a little bit more of a leveraged play. So just be more careful, do your proper risk management and due diligence on whether it's something that you're comfortable with. Rakesh, do you think recession is probable? I'm feeling it could be now. I think recession indicators, the ones that we are tracking, are all pretty healthy. So if you bring up my recession indicator spreadsheet, which I have gone over in my previous videos, they're all very, very healthy, right? They're either strong, they're okay, they're mild. Nothing really is sort of out of ordinary. Nothing is kind of standing out right now that you could argue that, okay, I mean, this is getting pretty bad. Maybe the JOLTS to unemployed persons now sitting at 0.98, right? So it's been weakening. So the labor market certainly showing some early signs of weakness, but initial claims have been stable, 240, 250,000. They have been rising a little bit, but they are still well below the limits, what I would consider to be pretty concerning. 4-week averages around 225. GDP growth has been strong. Inflation numbers have been okay, around the 2.5, 2.9% mark. Yes, they're a little bit elevated compared to where the Federal Reserve wants them to be, but overall, manageable. Retail sales also growing. Unemployment rate is low, 4.2, 4.3%. That's what we're kind of battling with. So yeah, there's a lot of indicators, numbers, that are still suggesting that the economy is in good shape. Now, if these numbers start to, deteriorate and they start to show some signs of weakness, then yes, we could argue that, okay, we're kind of heading into a potential recession, but so far, so good. And just really think of this as like the report, like a medical report for the economy, for the U.S. And you look at all these numbers, these could be our vitals. And if they get worse, then of course the health of the economy is getting worse. But if they are good, how you get your test done, right, for your body, and that gives you a little bit of a range where you need to be. Anything over and above is bad. And that's what we do with this kind of report, is that we understand, okay, what's the health of the economy, and whether there are signs, early signs of any kind of weakness, or if you're still on a pretty strong path. And right now we're still pretty good. Akash, good morning, Money Vest. Amazon. Yes, let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon's definitely been struggling quite a bit here. Well, it's still sitting near all-time highs, so I wouldn't necessarily call this a struggle, but yes, it's been one of the more underperforming stocks. Magnificent Sevens have, like, down almost 3% year to date. Trading down to that support inside this green rectangle, so very, very strong area of demand here, with a resistance all the way up to 235, 236 for Amazon. And of course, we're seeing a lot of consolidation in that range. And once again, Amazon is not going anywhere. It's at the same price as it was at the beginning of this year. And of course, for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, basically, Amazon has not really gone anywhere. So TSM, why didn't TSM go up after such strong earnings? Let's take a quick look here. So TSM coming in with a beat across the board on EPS and revenues as well. It is up. It is up 2.3% pre-market, so it is pushing higher. If the question is why didn't it go up more, well, take it up with TSM and TSM investors. But I think with a strong double beat, this is what you're getting is a 2.3% move higher. Silver, cardless paytech, we went over that earlier, so definitely please scroll back a little bit. And you can kind of go over the analysis that I just did on silver, on gold. So, we already covered that a little bit earlier. Salesforce and Technoglass, let's take a quick look here. Salesforce consolidating, continues to trade inside this descending triangle, right? So we had some analysis done in this stock before. Very strong area of demand and support around the 225, 228 levels. And that's really where it's been trading. And Salesforce is also one of those companies that is essentially flat for the last couple of years now. So 2023 all the way to now, it hasn't really gone anywhere. So that's the lower high. Very strong support around 230. Technoglass has also been part of the watch list. Again, I've done some due diligence on the stock here. Very strong support at 59, closer to $60. So this is certainly one to consider, given that it has been selling off, down almost 30% from all-time highs, and support level is going to stay put at 59, closer to $60 for Technoglass. One more stock that I'm analyzing right now is Axon Enterprise. It's part of the S&P 500. It's down almost 30% from its all-time highs. I'm going to be doing an analysis, like a deeper dive into this stock as well. It's been one of the best performing companies since 2022. The stock obviously is up incredible. From May 22, it's up almost 800%. And from 2011, the stock's up well over 20,000%. So it's a profitable business. It's got some pretty decent margins. You can see around 18 to 20%. Growing a revenue base, expansion happening for this business as well. Year to date, a little bit of a mediocre performance, but this is also a company that I am doing a deeper dive with also net debt, negative net debt. So about almost $200 million of negative net debt here for the business as well, with the shares outstanding essentially flat to slightly growing on an annual basis. So it's also part of the S&P 500 if I haven't mentioned it already. So we're going to be looking into that stock moving forward. Okay, let's take a look at LUMN and then coin stocks. So I'm going to spend a little bit less time on these questions so I can catch up. So Coinbase here, consolidating sideways. I would put down a resistance all the way up to 422 with a pretty decent support down as low as 334, and then maybe another support down to as low as 255. Again, a lot of that performance and volatility hinges on crypto, right? On Bitcoin. Lumen Technologies. This kind of reminds me of what's the Apple TV show called that has like Lumen Technologies. It's a pretty good show if you haven't watched it. Severance. Severance is the name of the show. I kind of fell out of it, I think, in the third season, or where it got a little boring. But yeah, so for Lumen Technologies, I would say support level is going to stay up roughly at 345, 350 with a little bit of resistance that stays all the way up here at 767, 770. That's where it's coming up to now for this stock. IREN. So I'm going to go to one stock for each person so that we can give everybody an opportunity and not have multiple stocks here. So we'll take a look at IREN here, and then we'll come take a look at MP Materials very quickly. Again, we've done some analysis on this stock before, up another 3%. Support level is going to stay put at $83, $84, and support level all the way down to $59 to $65 for MP Materials. So we got a little bit of a bull flag breakout for MP Materials here. And IREN, where does this stop? Where does this stock stop? Right? This has also been an incredible, since April, the stock's up like over 1,300%. Just absolutely nuts. Nuts. And if you think about when we actually did the video, was back when it was in the 40s, right? If I'm not mistaken. And even from then, it is more than double, almost more than doubled here. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say about this company. It's just at the right place at the right time. Expanding partnerships, mining crypto when they need to, and then leasing out their data centers when they want to. completely 100% renewable, strong uptrend here, and it just doesn't give us any dips. Every dip seems to get bought up here. If you plot a very, very simple moving average, let's just go with a 9 EMA. We'll just do that. It is insane how closely it's going to track the price because it just does not give us any buying opportunity. As you can see, the yellow line is literally the 9 EMA, and it just gets bought up every single time. Every single time it just kind of gets down to that level. NVO, Novo, let's take a quick look here for Novo Nordisk. So consolidating sideways a little bit. And resistance is going to stay put all the way up to $60, $61 with a decent support down as low as $51, $52. Vex says, I'm noticing the market is going more defensive. Smith Foods was what I was noticing. Yeah, market's certainly getting a bit more defensive for sure, is what we're seeing. A little bit of consolidation sideways. And then, yes, gold and silver, the big inflows going there. And then overall, the market seems to be kind of trying to figure out direction. What's your thought about BMNR? Again, BMNR plan to hold a little bit more long term. Been adding more shares. And very simple analysis, 47.57. Those are the two numbers you need to remember right now for BMNR. 47 support, 57 resistance. And that's really where it's just been bouncing around. And again, it's going to trade a lot on Ether, right? VUZI, right? So let's take a look at this one as well. Vuzix Corporation. 324 million market cap. So again, a very, very small market cap stock here. It was even smaller, 117% growth. And now the resistance is going to be all the way up here at close to 445, 450 for VUZI. Just be very careful with these very, very small cap stocks here because they can be incredibly manipulative and volatile. Amazon only up 3% year to date. It's actually not even up. It's down. It's down 3% year to date. So yeah, Amazon's having a pretty bad year. That was going to be my next question. If you were dollar cost averaging into BITX, VIX over 20 is a time to average in a bit. I mean, volatility is elevated, but the market's still not really off of their highs. They're still only down like 1%. So obviously, a lot of individual stocks are trading near all-time highs, and they're overbought and overextended. Maybe there's a few opportunities, like Meta is down, Amazon is underperforming, Google was down up until a few weeks ago. So yeah, there might be some opportunities. Depends on where you look. And as I said, we're looking into other companies like AXON that has potential, that is showing signs of a lot of weakness here. Down almost 30%. And then I was also looking into Southern Copper Corporation. It's a company that I covered like 3 years ago. We've been talking about this for a very long time, and it's also sitting at an all-time high right now, right? Because copper prices are also sitting at near all-time highs. Well, not all-time highs, but of course, they performed really well. From their lows of around July 2024, they're up 14, 15, 18%, sitting just shy of $5 right now, whatever that metric translates to for copper. But yeah, on a weekly, on a monthly basis, it's been on a very nice steady trajectory higher. So that's been the monthly cycle for copper. Not as great as gold or silver, but it is also performing well. Okay, the U.S. economy has a high blood pressure. Yeah, Amazon we covered earlier. Yeah, more defensive. Let's take a look at Oklo very quickly. So monthly time frame, Oklo sitting at an all-time high. Weekly, extremely overbought. Looks like we've done some analysis here. But again, support level is going to stay put at 107, down to as well as $85. I mean, these are stocks that are pure momentum right now. Pure, absolute momentum. Nothing else. 708% year to date. Yeah, that's pure momentum. You want to take profit. You want to certainly trade cautiously with risk management, with stop losses, so that you don't get burned on these companies, right? Because they are shooting to the moon. Yeah, Rigetti Computing here. Let's take a look at RGTI. Let's see what this stock's up to. Again, of course, very similar to Iron for quantum computing. Pushing higher here from its lows around 14, 15 bucks from September. 300%. Rigetti Computing, right? It's part of the hot watch list that I've shared with everyone. So NVTS, Bitfarms, all of these stocks are part of it. And so yeah, support level is going to be all the way down to $34, $35, all the way down to as much as 28 bucks. And again, I can show you how extremely overbought and extended this stock is. So that's the case for many companies right now. Okay, market's going to open in about a few minutes here. So I'm going to try to get to a few more questions before we kind of come back to the market. Out of all the stocks you've covered, what's your favorite and least favorite right now? Not necessarily a buy, but things they are doing good or bad. I mean, least favorite could be a lot of them, right? But I can tell you what the most favorite stocks are right now. I covered one, Hims and Hers, SoFi. Of course, Palantir, Nvidia, Tesla are going to be at the top of the list. And then a few other ideas that we're looking at, of course, crypto, gold, silver. This is what I own. Like, this is quite literally what I have in the portfolio is all of these that I just mentioned. Oscar Health, Ethereum ETF. So I do personally believe that I think everyone should have at least some allocation or at least consider the allocation in 4 things, which is gold, silver, Bitcoin, Ether. Those are 4 that, again, limited supply, and they've done really well, right? And then when it comes to individual stocks, that's when the discussion becomes a little bit more broad, is what sectors, what part of the markets do we really want to look at in order to capitalize on that momentum. And yeah, sometimes it's better to double down, triple down on something that you already own, than to diversify into something that you don't necessarily believe in just for the sake of diversifying, right? Because, as Warren Buffett says, if you're diversifying, you don't know what you're doing. So, and that's totally fine. If you want to be more passive, the Vanguard funds or the S&P 500 index fund is more than enough for most people to have a very passive approach to investing. But if you want to spend more time, if you want to learn more about different companies, different stocks, different ideas, then that's where the alpha lives. The alpha lives where you put your time in, right? That's where that research comes in. So Ether, yes, Ethereum. That's what I'm referring to. Okay, is Oklo making money? No, it's not. The only momentum stock I believe that is printing money right now is Iron. If you look at Iron, Rigetti Computing is also not making any profit. It's massive losses after losses. Navitas is also just piling on more losses. Bitfarms here, it's making revenue. Profits are getting better. So yes, well, profitability is not existent. So I guess losses are getting smaller is what I meant. So maybe getting a little bit better here. Then we got Applied Digital Corporation. Again, losses widening year over year. CoreVive, if you scroll down, again, losses widening year over year. AST Space, which also has been performing really well. It's been top of the radar for retail. Just take a look at those losses. How can you generate a $300 million loss on $4 million revenue? The operational burn on these companies is gotta be insane. It's just absolutely insane for these businesses. There you go. So operating income. Well, let's take a look at operating expenses here. $62 million per quarter. They're burning through $50 to $60 million per quarter on revenues of just over 1 million. 1 million revenue in 3 months, and they're burning through $62 million of operations. A lot of that is going to selling, general, administrative expenses. God, the salaries of these companies must be insane. And yeah, the only business that's actually printing right now is Iron. Making money, profitable, on track to doing $1 billion of revenue. And like I said, just at the right place at the right time. And Oscar. But it's not really a momentum name right now. It's not really flying high. It's just linear growth as opposed to exponential. Archer Aviation, I believe losses are piling up for this one as well. Yep, little to no revenue, over $500 million of loss. Next Decade Corporation, this is not really flying high. And we got Joby, that's been on many investors' radars. Again, losses piling up. Sooner or later, if these companies don't turn around, the stock prices will. That's the bottom line. If these companies don't turn around fundamentally, the stock prices will. So that's what you have to analyze as a trader or investor is, are the companies actually improving their fundamental situation? If they're not, then the stock price will eventually follow. It will rotate back lower once the hype starts to die down. So yeah, be very careful. Understand what you're treating a trade versus an investment. Simran, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you a lot. What's your view on Lulu stock? Lulu we have covered earlier. We had a little bit of a trade idea on this, but it seems to not catch any bids at the moment. It's been struggling with momentum. Of course, it's been beaten down very aggressively. We got up to as much as 180, then we fell right back down, and support level right now in the 160s, low 160s for Lulu, with a little bit of a gap that's also left here. Resistance back up to $208 for this stock. All right, everyone. So market's going to open in about T-7 here. 7 minutes to go for the markets to open. And right now we are... we're pushing higher, so QQQ's up over 0.5%, S&P 500 up over 36 basis points, so pushing higher, and we got NVIDIA up over 1.3, Tesla's basically flat at the moment, Bitcoin's hovering over 111,000, Ether's over 4,000, and of course gold and silver flying high. So if you could choose between any one of these assets to just buy and hold, right? So buy and hold forever. I just want to know, like, what would you buy and hold forever? Gold, S&P 500, Bitcoin, or we're going to do buy and hold orange juice. I'm just kidding. What should we do? What should I put? Gold, S&P 500, Bitcoin, or one more asset. I don't want to do real estate because it can be pretty broad. I want to do like some kind of commodity, but gold is already there. So gold, S&P 500, Bitcoin, NASDAQ is already part of the equity markets. Any oil stock, a barrel of oil, okay? Because this gives you a bit of a longer term view on what is more limited in supply. Of course, we know that oil supply is about 70 to 80 years, and we don't have the technology to completely convert to renewable. So there could be a possibility that oil becomes insanely expensive at some point because of the declining supply. So I will just put a barrel of oil. Okay, and just be serious, you guys. We want a serious poll, okay? We don't want this to be a joke. So I really, really want you to think before you vote here, okay? What would you buy and hold forever if you could just put money in this today and not make any changes whatsoever and just hold it forever? And you were paid out. This would be sold in towards the end, and you would just be paid out for whatever it's worth. So what would you do? What would you actually buy and hold forever? I'll come back to this poll because I think this is an interesting poll here, and I really want to see what the responses are from everybody. Of course, the S&P 500 makes the most obvious choice because it's done really well. You know, you've seen those charts where equities have outperformed almost every other asset class, but times are changing, and times are quite interestingly changing here because of a lot of factors, right? Geopolitics, inflation, monetary policy, fiscal policy, A lot of factors at play. And what investors experience over the last 100 years will certainly not be the case for the next 100 years. And as a result, we always have to adapt. We always have to look for opportunities where they're at, and not just be stuck to the one worldview of historical analysis. So yeah, it's a tough question. I totally know that it's not easy, but yeah, palladium is up 78%, and that's interesting because I was looking into those commodities and I was looking over those commodity cycles where, when gold and silver rallies, palladium and platinum, those are the two P's that actually follow after. And then what after follows then? Copper. Copper also starts to go up eventually. So you can see that platinum is up since April. It's up 86%. Year to date, platinum is up 85% here. And then if you take a look at palladium here, just look at that growth. Insane, right? Since April, 78%. So, but copper hasn't taken off yet. And copper, since August, it is up a little bit, 17-18%, but nothing close to what these commodities are up. Also due to because of the supply-demand factors here. And then oil is something that starts to kind of rally towards the end of this commodity cycle, is what I've also studied. So 46%, 46. We got over 100 votes. Definitely do participate if you are watching this live stream. So we got 30%. A third of the investors would love to just buy and hold gold. We got 46%, almost half of you would stick to the S&P 500. Makes a lot of sense. We got 19% Bitcoin, and 5% of people, basically about 6 or 7 people here, that are going to hold on to a barrel of oil. Very interesting. Very interesting. So the contrarian trade here really is the barrel of oil. The mass trade is the S&P 500. So take it for what you will, but quite an interesting analysis there from actual investors, right? From a small data set that we have here. Yeah, gold is the only thing you don't have to keep up with while holding forever. People will always covet gold. I think gold and oil are two commodities that will always have a market. Always have a market. These are the oldest commodities that will always be traded. Anywhere you go, at any point in time, there will always be a market for gold and oil because they're just globally recognized forms of payment. So yeah, those are two things that will have stood the test of time, and they will continue to have their relevance in the world. Bitcoin, of course, still fairly new, less than 20 years old. So barrel of chicken tikka rather than oil. Uranium is up a lot. Yeah, a lot of rare earth, right? A lot of commodities, a lot of rare earth materials and metals are up. We did a video like 5 days ago, last weekend. A lot of those stocks are flying high. If you come over to materials here, we did see a little bit of a pullback, but they have been pushing up quite a bit, ever since the US-China decoupling is taking place. Anyway, so markets are open, you guys. We got NVIDIA here. I'm just going to give you a quick round, and then we're going to jump into our Discord. So gold pushing up, new all-time highs. NVIDIA's up higher, 1%. NASDAQ, Netflix, Google, S&P starting off fresh with some greens here. We got silver and Apple slightly down, with QQQs up over 50 basis points and S&P 500 up over 26 basis points as well. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. I really appreciate it. And again, link's going to be down below if you're interested in joining us. Again, there's an additional 20% annual discount available for just a few more days. So again, if you have any questions, email me at admin@moneyvest.com. We'll see you in the Discord. Any questions, message me, email me, and would love to help you in your trading and investing journey. So time to trade. Hope you all have a fantastic Thursday. We'll see